Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new Pokemon TCG video. Before we start guys, I'd really like to apologize for the lack of videos. Again, as I mentioned on my last video, I've been having a lot of internet issues. Things got much worse since my last video, so it's taken me a while. I feel like I've finally resolved it though, so I really want to apologize for that. I've also been a little bit sick over the past couple of days, so that's also been hindering me. But I feel like we can finally start bringing out some videos to you again. So I really want to apologize, and I really thank you guys for your understanding. But before we start, I briefly want to talk about the banning of the Lysandre's Trump card that is going to happen, I believe, on June 20th or around that time. So this card is going to get banned. The PTCG website has offered a couple of reasons as to why it is. For example, one of them is that one of the wind conditions, which happens to be the opponent trying to deck you out, for example, is no longer really in effect because, of course, Lysandre's Trump card can very easily negate that by just reshuffling the cards all over again in the player's deck. It sort of created a bit of a toxic environment as well. And the players are allowed to reuse a whole ton of cards such as the Crushing Hammers, Enhanced Hammers, Hypnotoxic Lasers, Verbank City Gem, which happen to be by far the most disruptive and has given way to a lot of Seismitoad EX decks, Execute decks as well, Executor decks as well, and the Shaman EX Trevenant type of decks as well. So Lysandre's Trump card has been argued as a very sort of toxic type of card, and I feel like banning it is definitely one of the least disruptive ways of us trying to I guess quash this sort of toxic environment. I mean, my overall opinions though are that I feel like this could have been handled a little bit differently, but I feel like a lot of other YouTubers have already discussed the Lysandre's Trump card banning in pretty good detail. Again, it's mainly comprised of their own opinion. Of course, I know some people are quite outraged that Lysandre's Trump card is going to get banned. Other players are very happy, saying that, oh, this is going to open up a whole lot of new possibilities. I'm sort of on the fence. I have mixed feelings. I mean, I definitely feel like on the whole it's going to be a positive change, just with respects to the overall Pokemon sort of environment, encouraging a whole lot of new deck builds, decreasing the toxicity of decks to a certain extent. However, I feel like, again, it could have been handled a little bit differently, such as Lysandre's Trump card, for example, having its effect changed a little bit, and such that, for example, it would be that each player happens to shuffle all of their energy cards and their Pokemon cards back into their deck. So that would not include any of their item, supporter, stadium cards, or anything like that. I feel like that would have been one way that they could have handled it, because again, it seems like just a few notable cards happen to be the ones that really sort of created this toxic environment. Again, namely speaking, the Hammers, the Hypnotoxic Lasers, and the Verbank City Gems. But again, I don't want to discuss this too much. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to post some questions in the comment section down below, and I'll hopefully try and answer you guys. Again, it's a very sort of complicated topic, and I don't really want to dig into it too deeply. If you guys are very interested, feel free to check out some other PTCGO videos on YouTube discussing the overall banning of the Lysandre's Trump card, and I feel like that's going to give you guys a sort of good idea as to how the game is going to change, things like that. Anyways, with that, guys, I'm going to go right ahead and dig into the deck that we are going to be examining today. So the main attacker of our deck is going to be the Magnezone with the Dual Brains ability, allowing us to play a total of 2 supporter cards during any one of our turns. So it has a very solid ability. And I feel like it works exceptionally well in combination with the Wally from the Roaring Sky set that had just been released. So Magnezone is going to be the main attacker of our deck. Doesn't look like a very impressive Pokemon, and I mean, on the whole, it's not a very impressive attacker, but with the deck that we've built, it seems to work quite well. So Gyro Ball is going to allow us to hit for 80 damage, and then we can simultaneously go right ahead and switch it out to one of our opponent's bench Pokemon. Sorry, our opponent is going to be forced to switch out his active Pokemon with one of his bench Pokemon, and we're going to be forced to do the same. So whenever we do attack with the Magnezone, we're either going to switch into the Robo Substitute, such that the opponent, whenever he does happen to knock any of our Robo Substitutes out, he won't be able to draw onto any of their prize cards. And the other option is going to be the Beautifly with the Miraculous Scales ability, preventing all damage done to this Pokemon by any of our opponent's EX Pokemon. So this is identical to the Safeguard ability. However, the advantage of the Beautifly, or possibly the disadvantage, depending on how you guys look at it, is that it's a Stage 2 Pokemon. Now, that's an advantage in that it's not going to get affected by cards such as Silent Lab, which is the primary way of a lot of Soul EX deck, solely EX based decks that they try to do to take care of the safeguard type Pokemon such as Suicune and the Sigilif. For example, Primal Groudon EX decks, that's pretty much their only counter to the Suicune and the Sigilif. Beautifly can very easily negate that with Miraculous Scales because it is a stage 2 Pokemon. So that's kind of nice. The also thing I really like about the Beautifly is that it has absolutely no retreat cost, so we can easily bring it out whenever we attack with the Magnezone, and then we can go right ahead and switch into the Beautifly, and then we can go right ahead and retreat, bring out the Magnezone all over again. So it's a very cool attribute that I actually really like about the Beautifly. We could potentially use its Whirlwind attack from time to time as well. Also hits for 80 damage. So I have decided to include a total of 2 Grass Energy cards, but ideally our main attacker that we'd like to repeatedly bring out is going to be the Magnezone. Now let's go right ahead and discuss some of the other cards in our deck. Guys, we are running a single copy of the Evo Soda. This will allow us to evolve one of our Pokemon at play by looking through our deck and then grabbing onto its evolution. So for example, if we happen to have a Wurmple, we can go right ahead and look for the Silcoon. So Evo Soda can be a nice card. We are running a single copy of it. We're also running a total of 2 copies of the Wally. Has the exact same function as Evo Soda. However, we are able to use the Wally on the very same turn that we actually bring out one of our Pokemon. So that's a very cool card. Wally is going to help us out tremendously. And I mean, normally it would take up our entire supporter slot. So you guys might be feeling a little bit iffy with respect to using it or not. However, since we are going to be running a deck with Magnezone allowing us to use a total of 2 supporter cards, Wally is going to be a very fundamental and important sort of card in our deck. So we are running 2 copies of it. We're also running a total of 3 copies of the Rare Candy. We can go right ahead and use that to evolve our Pokemon, our basic Pokemon into the stage 2 Pokemon right away. So Rare Candy is going to be very helpful as well. We are running 3 copies of it. We're running a single copy of the Starling Megaphone. Mainly speaking, this is to allow us to deal with those Garbodors. We also have the Jurassic that we can use to deal with Garbodors. However, Jurassic has the added advantage that we can go and use it to discard any special energy cards attached to one of our opponent's Pokemon. So that's kind of nice. We are running a single copy of the Jurassic in our deck as well. The other cards in our deck are pretty self-explanatory, guys. I do want to discuss 2 more. However, before I briefly go over each of the other cards, we're running a total of 2 copies of the Team Flare Grunt, allowing us to discard an energy card attached to our opponent's active Pokemon. So this is a very nice disruptive type of card. And again, since we'd ideally like to have the Magnezone out of play with Dual Brains, it won't count as the sole supporter in our turn. So that's very nice. So Team Flare Grunt is going to help us out tremendously. So we're going to be sticking with 2 copies of it. We're also running a single copy of the Training Center Stadium card. This will allow us to increase the total HP of each of our Stage 1 and Stage 2 Pokemon. So this can make our Beautifly and the Magnezone a little bit more powerful. Mainly though, the actual reason that I decided to include the Training Center Stadium card is just because I wanted it to be a counter stadium card to something that our opponents may be running. I feel like we could, however, increase it, maybe decrease the total of rare candies in our deck by 1 copy, for example, and increase Training Center by an additional copy. However, that's up to you guys to decide. In our case, we're just going to be sticking with a single copy. And now the other cards in our deck are pretty self-explanatory, guys, so I'm going to be going through them relatively quickly. We're running a total of 3 copies of the VS Seeker to allow us to reuse any of our supporter type cards. 4 Ultra Balls to allow us to grab onto any of the Pokemon that we need. A single Colress for Ends and for Junipers for some draw support. 1 Lysandre to lure out any of our opponent's bench Pokemon. A single Lysandre Strum card allowing us to reuse our cards all over again. 2 Skylas will come in very handy, just allows us to grab onto any of the item cards that we need. And again, since we do happen to have the Magnezone with Dual Brains, we can use Skyla to look for a draw supporter, for example, and we can go right ahead and play that draw supporter on the very same turn. And we're running a total of 9 energy cards, so 7 of them are the Lightning Energy and 2 of them are the Grass Energy. So with that, guys, we're gonna go right ahead and find ourselves an opponent. I have to say that this deck has been performing quite well. I am quite impressed with it, and let's see what type of deck we're going to be facing. Looks like it's going to be a Seismitoad EX Slurpuff and probably Shaman EX type of deck. This could actually be a bit of a good matchup for us. Hopefully we can go first though, guys. But I mean, once we do bring out the Magnezone, I feel like things should hopefully go our way again, because we can use cards such as the Jurassic and things like that and just give our opponent a very difficult time. Alright, so it looks like we are seeing Togekiss. Okay, so it looks like it's probably not going to be a Seismitoad EX deck. Alright, so Togekiss, yeah. Not really sure what water Pokemon our opponent is going to be running, guys, but we're gonna see. Alright, so again, the opponent has absolutely no cards in their hand, and Alright, I think I'm gonna go right ahead and start off with the Wurmple as our active Pokemon and lay down the Magnemite down into our bench. Looks like we're gonna see a Articuno. Okay, so we're probably going to have to repeatedly attack with the Magnezone and then switch into the Robo Substitute. So we're probably not going to see the Beautifly in action a whole lot in this type of deck. Articuno can give us a bit of a difficult time though, guys, because it's Tri-Edge and the Delta Plus ability will allow him to take an additional prize card for every knockout. So hopefully we can try and nullify that. We are seeing a Water Energy card get attached to our opponent's Pokemon, the Shauna, and we're seeing a Suicune, not really going to be all that useful, and the Togepi coming out as well. Alright, so I think I'm gonna go and start off with the Team Flare Grunt. Yeah, you know what, I'm gonna go right ahead and do that to get rid of a Water Energy card attached to our opponent's Articuno. Let's go and attach a Lightning Energy card attached to our Magnemite, and then we're gonna go right ahead and end the turn. I'd like to slow down our opponent until we ultimately bring out the Magnezone, and then hopefully we can really kickstart our strategy. The opponent is going to use the Pokemon Fan Club. As long as the Togekiss is not coming out, guys. Okay, so we are seeing the Shaman EX and Articuno. Muscle Band get latched on to the Articuno. Really hoping that we don't see the Togekiss. I mean, looks like the opponent has a very speedy sort of deck strategy. He'd like to be able to attack with his Tri-Edge right away. Hopefully we can sort of slow him down a little bit. We are seeing the Ultra Ball, another Shaman EX coming out for some additional draw support on our opponent's end. The VS Seeker probably going to grab onto the Shauna and use it during their next turn. So they are using the Chilling Sigh, but that doesn't really matter. I mean, it's not like the Wurmple was really going to attack anyways. So I'm going to go right ahead and attach a Grass Energy card to the Magnemite. I'm going to go and evolve it into the Magneton, bring out another Magnemite, and then I'm going to go right ahead and use the Juniper for some draw support. Let's go and bring out a Robo Substitute, another Magnemite once again, and then we're going to go right ahead and end the turn. Wurmple is going to wake up, but I have a feeling that it's probably going to get knocked out during this turn. All our opponent needs is an additional energy card attached to the Articuno, and then he can go right ahead and knock us out. And okay, it looks like the opponent is not going to get it, so that's a little bit unfortunate for them. Let's go right ahead and bring out the Magnezone, guys. I'm going to go and use the Skyla to grab onto the Rare Candy, and then that will allow me to retrieve the Wurmple and bring out the Magnezone, hopefully, so that we can start attacking with it. So, alright, so where is that Rare Candy? Alright, so we're gonna go right ahead and grab it out. Let's go and use it, bring out the Beautifly just to allow us to freely be able to retreat, and then I'm gonna go right ahead, use the Colress. I'm sure we'll be able to draw onto a energy card. Awesome, looks like we're gonna get one, so I'm gonna go and attach that to the Magnezone. Let's go and retreat that Beautifly, bring out Magnezone, and then we're gonna go right ahead and use the Gyro Ball, hitting our opponent's Articuno for 80 damage, and then bringing out the Robo Substitute. And the opponent's actually gonna have to switch out his active Articuno with one of his bench Pokemon as well. So that's very unfortunate for our opponent, because of course I can easily Lysandre out that Articuno during our next turn. So when the Magnezones do come out, guys, the opponent is just going to have an incredibly difficult time. I'm telling you guys this right away. This deck, again, has been performing just absolutely beautifully for the most part. And looks like we are seeing the Togekiss come out. Let's see if our opponent is going to be able to draw onto some additional energy cards. So we are seeing one Water Energy card, another Water Energy card as well. And the opponent is going to use the Shauna for some new cards in their hand. And I think the opponent is going to be able to draw onto a prize card if they knock out a Robo Substitute. I'm not really sure. So I don't think our opponent should be able to draw onto any prize cards whatsoever. So that's definitely cool. And of course, I'm sure our opponent would be very upset with that as well, because that really counters the entire Delta Plus strategy, allowing our opponent to draw onto additional prize cards. We are seeing the Trainer's Mail as well, so the opponent is going to grab onto the Lysandre, probably going to try and get rid of our Magnezone during the next turn. Articuno hitting us for a massive 120 damage. Again, no prize cards are being drawn on the opponent's end, so that's quite unfortunate for them. I'm definitely going to go right ahead and knock out the opponent's Articuno though. But first of all, let's go and use the Skyla, guys, to draw onto an additional Robo Substitute, which I really want to switch into. Or should I grab onto the N and shuffle the cards in the opponent's hand? Let's see, because again we are able to use a total of two supporter cards during any one of our turns. I really do want to knock out our opponent's bench Articuno though. So you know what? Let's go right ahead and grab onto the Robo Substitute. I don't think our opponent should be able to knock out our Magnezone. He'd have to get very lucky, flip a total of 3 heads for that Tri-Edge to knock us out. So I think we should be good. Yeah, so let's go right ahead, use the Starling Megaphone, get rid of all the tool attachments to any of our opponent's bench Pokemon. Attach a Lightning Energy card to the Magnemite. Use that Lysandre to lure out our opponent's Articuno, and then let's go right ahead, use Gyro Ball, knock him out to be able to draw onto one of our prize cards, and then let's go and bring out the Robo Substitute once again. Really hoping that the opponent is unable to knock out our Magnezone, but again, he does have the Lysandre at hand. But I really think our opponent's Articuno deck would run a lot more smoothly if he was running a couple of the copies of the Victini. The Fliptini one that allows him to reflip his coins. I feel like that would be a much more effective strategy. Chances are we're probably okay, so I was thinking we're gonna see another Shaman EX, but maybe our opponent is only running a total of 2 in his deck, or some happen to be prized. We are seeing the Lysandre, and it looks like the opponent is going to grab onto the Magnemite, so he didn't really believe that he could have knocked out our Magnezone, and that's very understandable. I didn't really think he could knock out the Magnezone in a single attack either. And alright, so let's see what we're gonna do this time around, guys. I'm gonna go and attach a Grass Energy card to the Magnemite. And I'm gonna go and use the Lysandre's Trump card and then use the End for some new cards. I'd really like to reshuffle all of the Robo Substitutes back into the deck. So let's go right ahead, use that Lysandre's Trump card. And do I really want to use the End? Actually, I feel like that may help out our opponents. So I think I'm actually gonna go right ahead and use the Juniper instead for some new cards. Alright, so let's go and bring out a Wurmple. I'm gonna go and use the Ultra Ball to get rid of a Startling Megaphone and a actually, let's go and bring back that Wurmple into our hand. I don't really think we're going to use it, so I'm going to go and use the Ultra Ball to discard the Wurmple and the Silcoon from our hand. And okay, so no Magnezones in our hand. That's a little unfortunate. So let's go and grab onto another Magnemite. I'm going to go and lay it down. And then let's go right ahead and use the Gyro Ball, hit our opponent's Articuno for 80 damage. And then bring out the Robo Substitute. Again, the opponent has to switch out his Articuno with one of his bench Pokemon as well. So I'm probably going to use the Skyla for a Lysandre. And then we're going to go right ahead and knock out our opponent's Articuno. So things are not really looking all that great for our opponent. Again, though, if he is able to easily Lysandre out any of our weak bench Pokemon, he's able to draw onto a total 2 prize cards for each knockout. So hopefully that is something that I can prevent. Let's go and attach another Lightning Energy card to the Magnemite. I'm going to go and use the Skyla to grab onto the Lysandre, guys. I really like to get rid of the opponent's Articuno. That really happens to be the threat right now. So let's go and use discard the Robo Substitute, bring out the Magnezone, use the Lysandre to lure out our opponent's Articuno, and then use the Gyro Ball, knock it out, and I think I'm going to go and temporarily bring out the Beautifly as our active Pokemon. Unless the opponent is unable to evolve his Togepi, I don't think we're really going to see any of our Pokemon getting knocked out just yet. But again, I'm not really sure. And alright, so it looks like we are going to see the Rage Quit from our opponent. So really hope that you guys did enjoy this video. I'm sure you guys had a very good idea of how this sort of deck runs. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'll definitely have a lot more videos for you guys upcoming soon. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.